football fans across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May with the Tim May Show, featuring Clay Hall. Clay Hall, ladies and gentlemen, an avid college football fan. He wants to talk about Ohio State's win over Wisconsin. He wants to talk about a lot of things. Ohio State, the number one team in the country, as it goes into its second off week, open date of the season this week. So we'll be talking about a lot of things as this week ensues. A couple of books that are out there for Ohio State fans to possibly enjoy right on down the line. That helps you with your early Christmas shopping. I think Bill Rabinowitz will appreciate that little early prompt coming up later in the week.
You bet.
But the bottom line is Ohio State's 7-0, and as Urban Meyer said, the best thing about being 7-0 is a chance to go 8-0. And here's the Ohio State football team, one of just a handful of unbeatens now left in the country, one of them being Indiana. And if I had given you the chance to make $10,000, you put up $5,000, and then I would give you $5,000 back on August the 1st, that the number one and number two teams in the country would be Ohio State and Indiana. Would you have taken my bet?
You would have taken your own bet because you've been a long time supporter.
I'm talking about number one and number two in the country.
No, I wouldn't. I would say Ohio State number 1, Indiana number 6.
Yeah.
So, but they've done it. And wait a
minute. But
all right.
That's what I'm asking you. Halfway through this season, where we are right now, basically halfway through the regular season, this has been one of the wilder seasons in history. And I'm sure down in the SEC country, Southeastern Conference, where your beloved Mississippi State team plays.
I don't know if they're beloved anymore.
But they're beloved to you. You never lose that. But my point is they have no unbeatens. So
right.
Things have to shake out. But they still want to warn you, wait a minute, though. This is still the best football being played in the entire world. The universe, if you're the best in the world, you're the best in the universe. You got to figure the team on the north side of Mars probably doesn't have much of a team.
But you said who's won two, not the SEC.
Right, exactly. And it's crazy when you think about the way things have flipped, the way Indiana dominated Oregon, and yet a lot of the voters think Oregon's still the third, fourth, or fifth best team in the country.
Yeah.
Depending on where you look. Indiana dominated at Oregon a couple of weeks ago. Then Indiana took care of business against Michigan State. Ohio State went to Wisconsin, and it was a matter of fact, almost instead of a Ferrari assembly line, it was more like a Ford assembly line where they just assembled a victory over Wisconsin. By the way, assembled that vehicle, but with a great passing gear in it.
That's for sure.
Julian Sayin to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith took care of business and then came home. But this Ohio State team, granted, Wisconsin playing with its third string quarterback, its third string running back, but Ohio State played with its third string running backs and fourth string running backs half the day on Saturday. Took the way the Ohio State defense turned Wisconsin pretty much inside out. We gave up one drive of note there near the end of the game, about a 50-yard move, which ended up being almost that and the fake punt where the kid ran 20 yards, avoided a tackle and ran 20 yards. Those two plays or those two segments accounted for half of Wisconsin's total offense in a 34-0 loss. My point is Ohio State has now deserved or gained a chance to, for want of another term, rest for a week before getting on with it against Penn State, which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, will be a noon start in Ohio Stadium on November the 1. Bottom line is, what's your take, man, coming out of the Wisconsin game?
Well, that's what I'm like you. You'd say, well, that's 34-0. Yeah, Ohio State, but with the exception of the passing game, which must be noted, and Julian Sayin, I believe, will zoom to the fact that he's got odds now for the Heisman.
Oh, yeah.
But there's 3 or 4 or 5 things that I noted watching that game. There is plenty to take from that game. And I've highlighted, Sayin is, of course, at the top of the list. 19 touchdowns, 3 picks, by the way. The second, and not in this order, Quincy Porter has distinguished himself. At one point, Tim, in this game, I said the Badger front four is mauling the Ohio State run game. 98 yards rushing, 3.5 per rush.
What was wrong with that? That was exactly accurate.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But, as I heard Jim Lachey talk this morning, you want to be around 150. But they threw it 42 times. They ran it 28.
Yep.
Special teams got another red star here because we got some, I think, concern there. And the last one is Isaiah West. And I think Isaiah West, with 14 snaps, I think 9 carries, he had 15 plays in the other 6 games. I believe he's moving up the depth chart and also deserves some notice there as well. Because Carlos Loughlin said to me not that long, probably after the first or second game, he kind of like Isaiah West kind of gave me that wink, like he's coming and he's arrived. All right.
And here's the point. The point is you let it happen. It's like watching bread rise in the oven. You flip on the light and you've got the patience to sit there. You can see the bread rise instead of a speed up camera. That's what you have to do when you're a coach. And this Ohio State team is has fellows rising before our eyes. They're already number 1 in the country and can be better, can be a much better football team than it is right now. And that's what intrigues me. What I liked most was on the tailgate show on Saturday before the game. Everybody was talking about the running game needs this and I said, you know what? When you go to Wisconsin, go out there and do what you do best to establish your beachhead, and then worry about the other stuff. I did not know then that I was being eavesdropped by Brian Hartline and Ryan Day, but that's what they did. They threw every play but one on the first touchdown drive.
That's right. What was it, 6 or 8 in a row?
But the bottom line was they did what they did best. They have the best combination of 1-2 receivers in the country in Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate, who, you still feel there are people around the country going, wait a minute, who's that guy? Well, he was their Jeremiah Smith of the class before Jeremiah Smith came in.
4 and 17 add up to 21. That's 3 touchdowns.
Is he exactly the same player as Jeremiah Smith? No. They are different in a lot of ways, but they are both tall. They will both go up and get the ball. And as Gary Danielson pointed out repeatedly in the broadcast for CBS on Saturday, Julian Sayin is putting the ball where nobody else can get to it, but those guys for the most part. He's exactly right. A receiver would much rather thumbs together, or as my 4-year-old grandson Charlie says, he always does that because that's the way his daddy taught him. Catch, even though you lob it down there and he has to do that. But classic, whatever catch it here.
Hands catch.
Oh, what 2 receivers are better in the country as a group hand catching the ball than Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate? I will give you the answer, even though this is cheating. None other.
Sayin's 80%. And as I heard point out, Will Howard set a record last year, 74% completion rate.
Right.
And this guy's busted it. And 19 TDs, 3 picks. I mentioned that. That's better than Dak Prescott. I just had to throw that in.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Dak Prescott's your boy.
Well,
he's your boy.
He's humming, but he's
the man you grew. I mean, you love Dak.
He's like 3rd, 4th, or 5th on the MVP
list. If Dak Prescott came through town and needed a place to stay, you and your wife wouldn't just let him stay at your house. He could use y'all's room.
No doubt. Yeah, we'd sleep in the basement. The guy is, not only he's a hell of a player, but I think he's a hell of a person too. So anyway, let's get back to the Bucs.
But Julian saying, you were just saying, I'm just saying,
and you hear it over. The precision is unbelievable. And as I heard this morning, now he's on the run and throwing darts. That ball to Brandon Ennis. Oh my gosh, I was happy for number 1, but.
Ladies and gentlemen,
that's an incredible throw.
I don't mean to channel Kurt Signetti here, but to paraphrase, how many times have I told people, Google Julian Sayin's high school highlights under Coach Thad McNeil.
Carlsbad?
At Carlsbad. Watch him play ball. what we're now seeing is we're seeing a quarterback who was sent out in that first game against Texas, go out, let's pretty much stay conservative here. If you get one over the top, take it. He did. Carnell Tate, touchdown, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But the bottom line is let's stay conservative for the most part with our play calling. Don't put him in jeopardy. Don't throw too much over the middle, things like that. And you saw him right there keep his poise, run the offense, the amount of offense they gave him that day, and they pull off a 14-7 victory. Whereas Paul Feinbaum had said Texas was going to win and it wasn't even going to be close. And he also had projected Arch Manning to be the greatest football player he's ever seen, going back to Tim Tebow. So my point is this.
Yeah.
You've been seeing this, but if you did your homework on Julian Sayin, you are not surprised to see him feel the pocket the way he does, feel pressure, move away from it, sometimes sprint out from it. Sometimes it's called sprint outs for him from it, and still deliver strikes.
That's it. It's the movement now. He feels the rush, as you said.
Now what do you do?
Yeah, we're now.
Brandon Ennis finally gets on the chalkboard there with that catching that touchdown pass in the right corner. That was one of the great throws and really good catch, but great throws by Julian Sayin, who did not give up on the play, and hits Brandon Ennis in the right corner. And finally, the guy I've been calling on to come on, Brandon Ennis, had a little bit of a day on Saturday. But who's that other guy that I like to say his name a lot? He kind of reminds you physically of Jeremiah Smith. Quincy Porter. You saw him in the game much earlier.
Yes.
And being targeted and making a few catches. Quincy Porter, ladies and gentlemen, this wide receiver well just keeps bubbling up. He's bubbling up new.
Wouldn't you say
new exports?
He's your fourth receiver now, is he not?
Yeah, I'd say he's my fourth receiver. Absolutely.
I think he's
Max Clare might argue with me, but no, he's my fourth wide receiver is what we're talking about.
Max Clare's good. I just now that he's here, they were fine.
And here's the other thing: how many times did you hear? How many times did you even see Davis Enigbenosin or Caleb Downs in the game on Saturday? And how many times did you hear their name called, whatever form you're watching television, radio, the great Paul Keels and Jim Lachey, or if you were at the game and the announcer, how many times did you even hear their names called? That's what a thorough defensive performance the defense put on those guys. But my point is this, the play of the first real true tipping play of the game was a tip pass at Jalen McClain. Cost coming straight up the field, a little curl route there, not even intermediate route, just kind of a like 5 or 6 yard route that should be a pitch and catch for Wisconsin. Was thrown a little bit off kilter, but not much. Jalen McClain gets in there, pops the ball loose, and Sonny Styles makes the interception. Jalen McClain is playing on a great level. He has ascended. We've gotten to talk to him a few times.
You're right. I should have put him on the list.
Oh, yeah, he definitely should have been on your list. I mean, the big questions about this defense in my mind going into the season, because I thought they were going to be really good at linebacker.
Sure.
I thought they were going to be good at the defensive ends and the starting defensive tackles, but who's going to be the backup defensive tackles?
Oh, you thought the back.
Who's going to add the depth, and then who's going to take Lathan Ransom's place, the guy who made so many huge plays last year on that stretch run, especially. Jalen McClain is the answer, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
This is what Ohio State has bubbling up, like I said, the tar pits of La Brea. You know what I mean? The whatever you want to call it, the Gulf Stream where the fish keep coming from the Gulf of Mexico to off the shores of England.
No, it's the sinkhole.
The sailfish
in Clay Hall's backyard.
Yeah, bottom line is
where they're bubbling.
There are all these guys that keep bubbling up. What they call it in the Beverly Hillbillies, black gold, Texas tea. These guys keep bubbling up, and
we watched all the same shows.
Yeah, we did as growing up.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is they are gold. I mean, they could be one of those shows, Discovery Channel shows, where they're panning for gold. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're just the big nuggets are sitting there. You just got to find them.
But anyway, you own Little Gold, and I'm going to own Little Gold, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's the way
well,
to go.
they don't take gold. Yeah, I guess they do take fillings gold if you have to mine that. But the bottom line is Ohio State's going into the off week on a roll, but with still things to work on. Matt Wilhelm is going to be up in just a few minutes with my weekly set to with Matt Wilhelm, former Ohio State All-American linebacker, former Super Bowl champion player in the National Football League, now an assistant coach. He has a lot of business activities, but assistant coach with Lakewood St. Ed's, maybe one of the top 3 high school programs in the country in the state of Ohio, one of the elite programs in the country too. But he's going to give us his weekly thoughts on Ohio State, especially the offense. We'll talk about the defense next week with him. But this offense is finding itself. But what does it still need to find, Clay
Short
Hall?
yardage runs. And I'm always projecting to the end because that's been the bugaboo. But when you get there, you got to convert 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 4th and 1, 4th and 2. And you got to make field goals. And I'm not saying they need to have a student-wide field goal walk-on tryout.
But
Jaden Fielding, 2 of 3. He was
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3.
Julian Sayin didn't hit every pass. But when the field goal kicker goes in suddenly
80%.
Suddenly from 38 yards or 36 yards, if you've ever stood on a football field with the narrow goalposts, 18 feet 6 inches, I think, in college, and look at them from 30, to think that's just snap of the finger. I mean, you have NFL teams, kickers missing extra points now because they're 32 yards or whatever the distance is.
The
to
Giants,
think that's automatic is you're not living in the same world I am.
Your point is well taken. Giants kicker missed 2 PATs that would have won the game for them in Denver. They lose an incredible, ridiculous.
Well, there you go. There's
comeback.
My example.
It is.
Now he can be replaced next week if they decide to go that route. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Browns didn't replace their kicker, and he's won them a couple of games now.
That's right.
Schmidt. That's right. After that, heartbreak at the beginning of the year. But the bottom line is, I think Jaden Fielding, you want him to make every kick, but whether he makes a kick at clutch time with the game on the line, you're not going to know that until that's what he's facing.
No, and I admit, after you watch these kickers in the pros and everybody, I mean, my gosh, the Cowboys kicker now has 5 kicks over 60 yards.
Right.
And that's not a fair comparison.
That still doesn't mean he can't miss from 38, though.
No, you're right. No, Anyway, it'll come up. But eventually it's going to come up where you gotta stroke it.
I think I said Julian Sayin. Maybe I didn't. I just thought it and didn't say it. Julian Sayin hitting 2 out of 3 passes. It's more like 4 out of 5.
No, he's 80%.
4 out of 5.
And Jaden,
what did I just say?
No, you're right. And Jaden is 66 2/3. But
yeah,
he'll be 4 for 4 one day. And
right,
go get him, kid.
Hey, he had 2 field goals he made.
I don't want to cast dispersion on
6 of their points. From just field goals.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. That outscored Wisconsin. The way I added it up, 6-0 is still the score, no matter what else happens. And big win, tough loss for a guy that we really have known for a long, long, long time. And I was, like everybody else, I was paying rapt attention to the quote-unquote waiver wire, for one of another term, for major college head coaches on Sunday. It didn't happen. As a matter of fact, the Wisconsin athletic director gave him the proverbial, what's it called? Not pat on the back. Vote of confidence. And
Tim, that's the second.
Let the season play out. Well, dude, this is the same guy, the same school that gave him an extension in the offseason. And everybody was going, what's that? What are you doing? Mainly to shore up recruiting, et cetera. But I think when you've got a guy standing there on the Green Mile, which is the equivalent of what, coaches who have either been fired or are waiting to be fired in major college football this year. I mean, almost 10% of the coaches in major college football have been fired already, and we're basically at the halfway point. That's kind of nuts.
Well, it's an unbelievably bold move by Chris McIntosh, I believe is the AD in Madtown.
Yeah.
He's sticking with his guy.
But who are you going to?
But they can't win. They just can't win
They don't have the people right now, man.
Another game to finish the year.
So they don't have the players. They will be the underdog
in every
game. And the bad news for them is ever since Oregon, you could feel the way Oregon was playing Rutgers on Saturday, that they wanted to score 100 points after getting bushwhacked at home by Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, the Oregon offense scored 13 points in that game against Indiana. Obviously, they had a pick six, which helped the final score be 30-20. They were dominated in the second half, especially the fourth quarter, by Indiana. So they wanted to set the record straight on how good they really are. Now, here's Wisconsin going to Oregon this week. Do you really let it fester? 37-0, 34-0, and if there's a bushwhacking at Oregon, you go, okay, now we make the move. I mean, that's not fair to everybody involved.
I was stunned, just stunned, and
they don't have the wherewithal to play with Oregon right now, just like they didn't have the wherewithal to play with Ohio State on Saturday.
I mean, if they somehow beat Minnesota in the finale, they go 3-9, unless something just.
But they're not going to be favored over Minnesota. Just came up with a big win.
Sure did.
Beat Nebraska. I think Nebraska was favored even going into that game. And here you're sitting, everybody talking about maybe Matt Rule is going to be the new head coach at Penn State, and you're going,
no.
I like Matt Rule, but where's the upgrade there?
Can't do it. Well, I mean, how could you sell that to your Penn State nation? His record, I believe, is worse than James Franklin,
except for that being his dream school and where he cut his teeth and everything else.
Played there the whole bit. I don't know. I just don't see that. But as somebody said the other day, hiring your friends is never. I don't know.
It's not. It's not good. It's good at the beginning, but when you have to make that big decision at the end, it's not good.
All right.
I mean, we all saw the conniptions. That Gene Smith had to face. Basically, when they had to ask for Jim Tressel's retirement or resignation, whatever you wanted to call it back then, it's tough. And because you do have a working relationship, but it should never go past working relationship, because eventually you may have to fire that guy, just like with assistant coaches and head coaches. Don't hire your buddies. Now, Ryan Day hiring Chip Kelly was a different level. That was like hiring your uncle almost, who you really have trusted your entire life. You've worked with before, you played for as a player, you knew what he was all about. And that worked out really well. But, nobody was saying that after November 30th last year. No. They were saying, that was the offense.
Where's the offense?
That was the plan. Yeah. But then all of a sudden they go on a 4-game roll, and it was the greatest marriage ever known to man was Ryan Day bringing in Chip Kelly, who now is calling plays for the Las Vegas Raiders.
And now he's on the ropes in the NFL.
He's on the ropes in the National Football League. So that's the way how quickly things can turn in this modern age. But I digress. Let's get to my conversation with Matt Wilhelm.
Yeah.
We're 23 minutes into this thing.
You're going to be out of shot clock here in a minute.
That's right. And we'll come back with a few more words after that. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here's my weekly conversation with one of my favorite people in the world, Matt Wilhelm.
I think I've said this a million times. I'll say it 1,000,001. I really look forward to this day of the week when I get to talk to Matt Wilhelm, former Ohio State All-American linebacker, former Super Bowl champion. No, you know what? You were an Ohio State All-American linebacker. You were a Super Bowl champion. You're not former anything. And now, you're an assistant coach on Lakewood St. Ed's, a high school power in the state of Ohio. Hell, nationally, you've got a son who's right now he's going to go to North Carolina. We'll see how all the recruiting balls drop as all these coaching jobs come open. But Matt Wilhelm, welcome once again to the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, my man.
Great to be with you. And as I always say to open the show, again, good to be with you, but also good to be talking about another Buckeye victory.
Absolutely, man. Ohio State is 7-0. Ryan Day is 77-10 as a head coach. No one's ever been in that rarefied air, at least on the major college level that I know of. And they've taken care of business the last 2 weeks on the road. Now they're going to be at home resting. They have an off week. Everybody calls it a bye, but it's an off week.
Open days.
Before they host whatever Penn State is now. Not the Penn State we knew from 4 weeks ago, number 2 team or 3 team in the country. But the bottom line is, I don't know. As you look at Ohio State right now, 7 games into the season, what is just your take? When I say Ohio State, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? Besides wanting to stand up and sing Carmen, Ohio.
Yeah, that's number one. Okay, so number 2 right now, and I would say it again. It's just where my mind goes. Even after a quarterback throws for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, it's the defense. Yeah. Thankfully, as a former defender, it's the goose egg on the other side. For the Wisconsin Badgers, that is so impressive. I think when you go back, watching the game the way that I did, because I had to record it because we actually played at 3:00 on Saturday. So to go back and watch it again. And then I actually rewatched some of the highlights today just to stay refreshed, to be, on my game for you and Mr. Hall, is just stingy and suffocating are 2 words that I think about. And when you go back, and again, for the football people that follow this show is, even when we're blocked up front, it's for a beat or maybe 2, and it looks like there's a hole, or it looks like there's a seam, or they throw the bubble pass, and it looks like we're all blocked up. We just disengage and we run to the football with a nastiness and a violence, and we get the ball carrier to the ground, where a play that looks like it's going to go for 6, 7, 8, 9 yards. I'm not talking about a home run, but 6, 7, 8, 9 yards and really set up a 2nd and 2 or a 2nd and 3. Gets down to the ground and it's 2nd and 7. It's a 3-yard gain. Yeah. And I believe me, I know that Wisconsin is not the offensive juggernaut but it's quality Big Ten football. And again, I feel bad. 0-4 in the Big Ten, 2-5. Luke Fickell maybe coaching some of his last games there at Wisconsin, which is unfortunate. As a former Buckeye and a coach on the 2002 team that we won the national championship with. So I just think this defense is still a nightmare. What I love collectively about the entire Buckeye roster and the way that this season has gone on, and we'll get to some of the things that we need to fix. And I'm sure, Coach Day, Coach Hartline, Coach Patricia, maybe not necessarily Coach Patricia, but Coach Hartline and Coach Day from an offensive standpoint on things that need to get fixed, things that need to get addressed, is just how many players we are able to get in these games because of the game flow to get viable. I'll call it, I would say varsity, because I'm thinking like a high school coach, like viable Big Ten snaps, Big Ten reps. And in many cases, we usually see these types of games happening at the Horseshoe, and you want to get those guys in because, you got parents in the stands and you've got this following, and you want to see what they do in that game setting, which is so great from a development standpoint. But to be able to do it on the road, and it was a sad sight to see, even at kickoff, Camp Randall not fully packed out, the way that they normally are, and raucous there in Madison. But just the depth that you're developing on both sides of the ball to now have with Isaiah West, now 5 running backs that can touch the football. Yeah. I also think, even the struggles of, Tegra Shabola, and to get Josh Padilla, who is, a hungry backup who could probably start at 75% of the Big Ten schools, right now, and maybe even in the SEC, if he wasn't wearing scarlet and gray, get him those reps. The multiple tight ends that we use offensively each and every week, just to continue to develop them and I think it just allows Brian Hartline with the evolution of this offense. And I'll be honest, and it's not that I don't like to lie, but when I watched yesterday's offense, it looked like Julian Sayin reminded me of Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. Yes. With Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta and David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs and all these talented players. and the investment along the offensive line that the Detroit Lions have made, and just standing there with a clean pocket and going bang, 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 turn around, hand it off. And I know that everybody's going to nitpick the run game, and we talked about it last week as well. They still need to pop a run. That means blocking everybody up. That means the wide receivers too, getting that extra little block, keeping their hands inside, and that running back, getting on support and making that guy miss, or running through his face, or running away from support and go pop that run, which will only loosen up the defense even more so for Jeremiah and Carnell Tate, which is a really scary thing to think about. Yep. But a lot of guys are playing a lot of football for these Buckeyes, and I think it's such a gift in today's college landscape with a potential 16-game season ahead of us.
Yeah, I'll do a tailgate show on 97.1, the 97.1 The Fan down here every week before the game, 2 hours. And the thing I pointed out going into this one was everybody's going, what's the running game going to be? Blah, 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 blah. And I, as I said, you've got the two best, you might have the two best receivers in college football on the same team. Yes. I mean, I think you could make an argument for that. Number one, I know there are other guys we can name, like Ryan Williams at Alabama, but he's had kind of a rough.
There's the kid out of USC.
Yeah, the kid out of USC.
The other receiver at Indiana.
Yeah. But this reminds me, watching on Monday, what was that, Thursday night? Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Who are you going to take away? And if you do, whatever. But my point is, this was on Saturday at Wisconsin. It was like watching like you just said, it was like watching a NFL team. All right, we're going to throw the hell out of it. We're also going to run a little bit, but we're going to throw the hell out of it because that's what we do. I mean, that's what we can do better than you, better than you can defend and stuff. And like you just said, I know development has to come with the running game without a doubt, but you also don't screw around. You don't go in there and treat it as a scrimmage. You treat it as, we can do this because you can't cover it or you can't stop it. Then you work on the run game, which they did, by the way. Isaiah West coming on, maybe their two most interesting runners right now are two freshmen, Isaiah West and Bo Jackson. I think you would agree with that.
Fun fact is we actually, St. Edward, we played St. Joe's Prep last year and beat them with Isaiah West. Wow. So we got to see him firsthand. That he absolutely passes the eye test.
Yeah. Well, what was your impression of him?
What we do when we have a player like Isaiah West is we make him a target man. You know what I mean? And we want to we want to hit him. We want to hit him because we know that if that football is given to him enough, he's going to pop one. And I think that's the same narrative you can take about this offense, whether it's Bo Jackson or Isaiah West or C.J. Donaldson, who will rip off some runs here and there. And it's just impressive kid. And I think. I'm going to do it every single week, but it's just, props to the culture that Ryan Day and the brotherhood that has been created at Ohio State. Props to Mark Pantoni because I'll just say, you have an Ohio product in Bo Jackson who's super talented, yet you can go into Philadelphia and go and coax Isaiah West on an official visit and multiple game day visits to present Ohio State as the place that he wants to play his college football, as he could have gone to Penn State or, any other number of SEC schools. I don't want to rattle off any of his offers, but I'm sure he had one from Penn State. But to choose the competitive culture that we have at Ohio State over other places where he probably could have played earlier or not been so competitive. And I think that's the one thing that I hope Tyler Bowen and Brian Hartline will continue to do offensively is, if and when something's not good enough on offense, because we are Ohio State, you have a plug and play starter as a backup. Yeah. So if Shabola continues to struggle or whomever continues to struggle, that next guy is not, and maybe at the running back position it is a freshman, but that next guy is not a freshman that's going to have to come in and struggle that you're going to go see what he's got. You've got a 3-year dude that's been with Mickey Marotti getting developed, that is hungry, that is dedicated to, Buckeye Nation and the culture within the Woody Hayes facility to be ready to play at an extremely high level when his number is called.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just take it one side and then the other. As you watch now 7 games in, Julian Sayin is throwing the ball. I've never covered I've been doing this for 42 years, Ohio State. Actually, even before that, I helped cover it. I've never seen a guy, and people are always asking you to differentiate, who's the best. I'm not saying who's the best quarterback ever. I think anybody wins a national championship's a hell of a quarterback, because he's had to make plays in the clutch. Right on down Craig Krenzel. He's as clutch a quarterback as I've ever seen at Ohio State. That's the first name that comes to mind when I talk about clutch. And then, of course, J.T. Barrett and Cardale Jones. And but my point is just a pure, just like passer of the ball. But it's beyond that in my mind. I don't know if you agree with me. I still want to throw this out there to you, Matt. He has a feel for the game, man. You can see him getting more and more comfortable with trusting his instincts about where he feels pressure, when to bail, when not to bail, right on down the line. I mean, am I seeing this wrong? I just think
no, you're not. No, you're not. And then just to keep it kind of Buckeye centric, he is reminding me of year 2 starter CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
When CJ Stroud could stand in there, and I actually think Julian Sayin's got a better arm than CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was still growing into his game, and I'll say the placement of the football was perfect for CJ Stroud, which we're also seeing out of Julian Sayin.
Yeah.
The ball just arrives differently off of Julian Sayin's hand than it did as it did for CJ Stroud at that juncture. So, but I meant, and I think the reason why it's also easy to make those comparisons is because they're protected so well by a great offensive line that they can stand in that pocket and make the reads. Whereas most young starters, read one side of the field or are coached, by Hartline and Day to go. If it's not this, it's that, or then throw it out of bounds. And you see that a lot of the young players, but he stands in there comfortably, to your point about his decision making. And I think the reason why it's easy to make that comparison as well is because, we go back to what that receiver room looked like when CJ Stroud was a quarterback, and it's Jackson Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Chris Olave. So you have, the Carnell Tate, the Brandon Ennis, the Jeremiah Smith, now Max Clare at tight end. You have this very talented room of guys that you trust to be better than the defender that's covering them. And when you deliver the football on time and where it's supposed to be, they come down with the football and move those chains. And I think that's the similarity that I see. And I know that, again, to your point about, comparison is, I know CJ Stroud, unfortunately, did not win a national championship at Ohio State, but that from his ability to understand the game, decipher, where to go with the football, to his great player, and then his arm talent to deliver it is, in my head, I'll say in the last decade, the best comparison that I can make. And oh, by the way, CJ Stroud happened to be the number 2 pick in the NFL draft, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah. You're not angling to be Julian's agent, are you, at this point? Huh?
Hey, I don't get down to Columbus enough to be able to do that.
I was going to say, dude, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And the thing about it, he's only going to get better. But I'm telling you, I remember talking to his high school coach a couple of times on this show, and he's kind of had that poise about him ever since Coach McNeil has known him. But then on top of that, he's gifted with a great release, not good release, great release, and a strong arm combined, and he can reach any part of the field, with his throwing. So and then you got on top of that these receivers. I wanted to ask you this, and you've been around teams your whole life and still are. When you've got 2 receivers, the talent level of Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. I mean, here's the thing: to think that after every game, if one gets 3 catches and one gets 9, they're both happy with the number of catches. I think it's putting it a little bit far over the top, because they both want to affect the game, right? And the only way you affect the game, really, you can block, but the way receivers really affect the game is with a lot of catches. But they do seem to get along extremely well. You've known Brian Hartline for a while.
Yep.
What is it that you think he fosters in that room that makes this way?
Sure. I think the one thing that and I'll go back to, Brian Hartline, the player, then Brian Hartline, the young coach, is I think Brian Hartline is very salt of the earth. and relatable, because again, on the younger side, on the fun side, and yet highly technical, of his understanding of the wide receiver position of offensive football. And he's able to convert that and relate and garner up a relationship with a young man that goes, I want to play for that guy.
Yeah.
I want to play for that guy for a couple of reasons. I think now at this point, and it's a decade long now, is the number of guys that he puts into the NFL that are now producing, and how many now. Emeka Egbuka and Jackson Smith and Jigba, every time there's a microphone in front of their face, on Sunday after they go for $150 and a touchdown, they just go, Ohio State prepared me for this.
Yeah.
That has a lot to do with the atmosphere and the urgency and the attention to detail that Brian and the relationship that Brian Hartline can garner with a high school football player and portray what life would be like and what your life would be like with me, with us in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
And to get that buy-in and to get these 5-star, 4-star kids from all over the country, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Washington, Emeka Egbuka, Washington, Jeremiah Smith, South Florida. Is Brandon Innes in New Jersey? Well, I know Carnell Tate's New York, New Jersey.
Yeah,
so
well, Chicago, and then
there you go. To go in, you're right. To go into these cities all over the country, relate to these young men, portray a picture of how they're going to be coached and a standard of excellence that Brian Hartline, presents and then has been maintained. And now I think, you've got these guys, Jeremiah was a plug and play starter. A lot of these guys had to wait, they didn't wait very long because they're so talented, but it was like when their time came, they were ready for this big moment. And I think, Carnell Tate was a true number 2 last football season. And, and I think everyone will say that whoever's playing, across from Jeremiah Smith is going to be a number 2, but Carnell Tate is a number, again, the same way I say Josh Padilla could start, at 70, at 75 to 80% of every other Big Ten school and potentially half the SEC as well. Carnell Tate would be a number 1 at 90% of the other schools in the entire country.
Yes.
He just happens to be playing opposite Jeremiah Smith. And I think the one thing of understanding football is targets and catches and touchdowns. You can take those all away and say Jeremiah Smith's got 1 catch for 9 yards and Carnell Tate's got, maybe 4 targets for 3 catches for 25 yards. But their ability, because when you watch the film, they've affected maybe in past history the game so immensely that they don't even have to have the touches. And they still have an ability to affect the defensive coordinator, to affect the defensive backfield, which then makes, because then if they are not getting the touches, somebody is. So it's Max Clare goes for 9 and 115 with 2 up the middle and a red zone touchdown. And Brandon Innes is working the slot. And, the screen game might be working that day. But those guys' ability to get open and garner the eyeballs of not only the guy that's covering, but the safety help they're going to have to put over the top because these guys can take the top off of defense is such a gift. And I think at this point, lastly, folks who didn't quite watch the game critically look at 34-0 and go, the Buckeyes just did what the Buckeyes should have done. I think also the best thing that came out of this game is, the special teams gaffe, on the punter scramble, I guess you could call it. And also, going back to the run game, it's a great thing for Ryan Day and the staff to have things to hold these guys to a standard about and coach them hard and coach and still have something to talk about, because a 34-0 where you ran for 200 and you threw for 300 and you got the goose egg on defense and the special teams were immaculate. You just kind of look at yourself and go, well, what do we say these guys on the Sunday meeting? You know what I mean?
What has 2 thumbs and is really good?
And I'm not trying to say that this is the team that falls into that trap, because I know, Ryan Day holds them accountable, but it not being perfect allows Ryan Day and these coaches to come, not rip them a new one, right? Because they're the number 1 team in the country. They're undefeated. You score 34 points and you have the goose egg on defense, but to hold them accountable towards a standard, that standard is not nationally, that standard is within the walls of the Woody Hayes, because, any coach is going to say it's really about us.
Yeah.
If we play our game, nobody can beat us.
Yeah.
And so it is just that constant churn of fixing what we don't think is up to that standard. And I would say, the run game and popping those runs, nobody's going to be happy with 3.5 yards carry, right?
Right.
Not with the players you have toting the football and the investment in the offensive line that you do, And I also think that that play on special teams will lose you a game against the right opponent.
Yep.
And that ain't good enough for Ryan Day and the standard he's created within the walls of Woody Hayes.
Yeah, Ryan brought that up even in postgame. That very thing. You're right. I want to say some stuff to talk with you about the defense next week. Because we've got an off week, we got to fill here. But I wanted to ask you this. This is the only interesting thing to me. I'm not going to say troubling, but interesting thing to me is you've got Julian Sayin we just blew it up on him. I mean, how good he is. The two best receivers maybe definitely as a tandem in college football. They're throwing the ball down the field kind of when they want to against anybody. Just check the completion stats, accuracy and completions. Why is this team still having trouble running the ball if, in fact, you're spreading people out or you're getting that aspect of the mental game that the defense has to deal with? They've got to be aware that they can be beaten over the top or on a dig or on what I call a stop, not a sluggo, but a stop and go where the guy catches the ball and then wheels. That's stop, catch, and run. An SCR, I'll call it that. Yep. So why isn't the running game ripping off 8, 10, 15-yard runs every other time it touches it? You give the ball to a back. I mean, something's not right in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's for me to put my finger on it. Not being an offensive line coach or getting too highly critical about any one said player. I think this open date comes at the perfect juncture for Ohio State. Where you can, and this is what happens not just at Ohio State, but any team that has an open day. It allows you to stop, allows you to, the players to recover. They're going to get a little bit more time off. Yet when they're at the Woody, either in the weight room or on the field, it's going to be, highly critical, same intensity to a certain extent that you are when you're prepping for a set opponent. You're just not prepping for any set opponent. Maybe towards the end of the bye week, you'll trickle in, with some Penn State stuff, some of their early looks just to be ready for formation recognition. But what it does, I think it allows the coaches and allows some of the analysts in the building to also meet and present portions of data of what runs are we blocking best?
Yes.
And what runs are we, struggling with? Are we, and again, and I actually, Tyler Bone and I text here and there, and just like, Mark Pantoni and I every once in a while, just as Buckeye former player, football guy with coaches or personnel at the school that I went to, right? Yeah. Nothing having to do with Mason, at least most of the time. And I just kind of I just poke and prod. And I don't remember what game it was. And I was like, Tyler Bone and I were texting. I'm like, and it was, it wasn't Grambling. Who was after Grambling? It was maybe but it was
Ohio
a game
University.
Yeah, Ohio University. It was the Ohio University game. Great call. And it was just like, I go, man, did you get into the bag on run concepts? Because it was power and counter, it was pin and pull, it was stretch, it was inside zone, it was a little bit of power read. It was like really, and a lot of guys played in that football game too. Once it kind of slowly trickled towards becoming, a big victory into the fourth quarter. But it allowed you to see who does what well, and all five guys. And you love to say it, after 7 games, that all 5 guys are in lock and step and everything's perfect and we know exactly who we are. It's actually kind of a gift that we're still a work in progress.
Yeah.
That we are the number 1 team in the country, that we are 7-0, and that things aren't just going super, super easy. To your point about the whole, who's the most amazing in the world, with their 2 thumbs is, and so I think looking into that data, breaking it down and see what it spits out, and then give that a portion of that to the players, who does what best. And also you start to look at your offensive deficiencies, and then you start to look at the deficiencies of specific players.
Yeah.
And you address those during this open date. And then, and I'm not advocating for this, and I'm not saying it should happen. If a change were to be made anywhere, you can tinker with that, with reps in practice in an open date.
Yeah.
And you're not going to mess with the mental psyche of a said starter because you started 7 games. All of a sudden, you should be started the whole way through. This is Ohio State. There's a standard. There's a standard of excellence. There's a standard that Ryan Day wants for his offense. There's a standard of what Matt Patricia and Ryan Day want for their defense. And if you were to, we're going to see a little bit more of this guy. You're still the starter, but you're going to get 2 drives, and then next guy's going to come in for the 3rd drive. And then you're going to get 2, and then we're going to watch that film, and we're going to put the best 11 on the football field, when it really matters most. And I think that's what, the national pundits are saying about this football team is like, they are so efficient. The defense is so great. They don't necessarily have to run the football that well because of what Julian Sayin and those receivers are doing, that you're just kind of like hosting to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And you're highly, I know the pace of play and the slowest pace and all the number of play, all that other stuff, people want to talk about, but it's like, it's that no one understands the amount of work and how critical that Ryan Day and his staff are of these players on really attempting to go out and be perfect each and every Saturday.
I wanted to ask you this, as you watch it's kind of a little bit of a revolving door at right guard right now, for example. This isn't calling people out, just watching the game.
It is what it is.
Taker Shabola got challenged again and played well at times and didn't play well at times. I mean, it's just obvious. It's not picking on him. It'd be like if Jeremiah Smith is dropping 5 or 6 passes, okay, what's up? And it's the same kind of concept when you let a guy come free on a run, twist stunt and things like that, where you're just slow to get there. And then Padilla got in the game. He didn't have a superior game either, for example, at right guard and stuff. I mean, as I look at this team right now, I would think more and more teams going forward are going to challenge that little spot because, man, anybody, whenever you've got problems in the A and B gap area of your offense, so I'm talking about when you're looking at it from the defensive side, the A and B gap area of an offensive line, you're stupid if you don't attack that, right?
Absolutely. And the one thing that will do is that'll spook a running back.
Yep.
So then everything is a bounce, because you're not secure. You don't feel like you're secure to get downhill. And I think it will also, it'll spook Julian Sayin or a quarterback to the point where like your timing is now, you feel like everything needs to get sped up a little bit because that flash of opposite color comes through that gap. And then I'm off my spot and I've got to go, I'm either throwing across my body to go back to the right if it's coming through that, that right A gap or B gap. And so it absolutely gets affected. And I think that's what this open date, if we're just going to talk about that one position, which we can, you're highly critical of, well, then what is it? Is it your feet? Is it your eyes? Is it your balance? Is it, what are you struggling with and why? And once you identify it, you portray it to, said young men or young man, and you go, we're going to drill the shit out of that all week long, and we're going to give you that look with that nasty 3 technique or that 2-eye tucked inside you. And he's getting, or that stunt that you didn't pick up and white because your feet were blank or your eyes were blank. We're going to fix your eyes. We're going to fix your feet because you're good enough. Because again, as I said, Padilla could be starting most places. Shabola started all last season, has been a starter up to this point right now. But we're going to, address those deficiencies and come out on the other side of this open date against a talented Penn State football team, maybe not motivated, but talented Penn State football team, with a head coach, interim head coach that probably going to want to throw his name, into the mix for being maintained in some capacity there in Happy Valley and shock the world and potentially beat Ohio State as a 3-4 football team.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hey, time moves fast when you're talking to Matt Wilhelm, ladies and gentlemen. Watch him on a stunt. Watch him on a loop stunt where he lines up here and loops all the way around and still gets to the quarterback. Matt, we got to go, man, but I'm really looking forward to talking to you next week just about this Ohio State defense, kind of putting it in historical perspective, especially matched with like the defense you guys had at the end of the season in 2002, just the way y'all rose up. I remember making my pick before that game against Miami, and everybody was, why are you picking Ohio State? I said, because I think Ohio State has the better defense going into this game. Everybody was so high on Miami, this, that, and the other, all these future NFL guys. I go, well, Ohio State's got those guys too. You need to take another look.
And I think for this football team, as good as we are on offense, defense in many cases, right now we're just playing amazing as a unit, but it's all about the matchups. And I'm sure in some cases you saw the matchups of Andre Johnson and Chris Gamble and Mike Dawson, Kellen Winslow, and our front versus their front. And you went, yeah, I like this matchup. If our offense can score, we're going to be in the game. And so that's what, and I think when you see the better teams that we will see later down the road, it's all about the matchups. But it's just great that the defense is still hungry and playing this way, regardless of the opponent and being so suffocating the way they are.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Matt Wilhelm. Matt, can't wait till next week. I thank you very much, as usual, for joining the Tim May Show, featuring Clay Hall, by the way.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Good stuff.
I enjoy my Mondays with Matt. Maybe I'll do a book.
Yeah. Or at least a couple chapters. In
Mondays,
your memoir.
No, I just like talking foot because, he and I talk probably 20, 30 minutes before we ever start recording because I'm always curious about him and his son Mason, a big-time recruit, offensive lineman, an IOL, interior offensive lineman, prospect out of Lakewood St. Ed's. He's already committed to North Carolina. But, of course, like everything else, he's still getting calls from everywhere, and Ohio State still has some interest in him. They haven't made him an offer. We'll see if they get to that. But sometimes, in this age, like I just pointed out, like 12, 13 schools have already fired their head coach. I mean, staffs too, after the season is over. You never know what's going to open up out there from an opportunity standpoint. And North Carolina wants to hang on to Mason, right? I mean, so there are all these, and that's just in particular him I'm talking about, but that's the musical chairs that are going to be played over the next several months, not just who a coach is going to be or who his staff is going to be, but who is stuck with them from a commitment standpoint, even though they've changed staffs. And it's a really interesting merry-go-round that ensues after major college football seasons. But this year it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, you broached that with him, I think, a little bit in one of the earlier episodes, that he was sort of open to committed, but already
you have
listen.
You have to keep your ears open because, see, even the school, let's just take player A or prospect A. Even that school is probably still juggling how you're going to fit in their revenue sharing program, how much money you're actually going to get from year to the first year based on the size of the class and who they get and who they get in the portal. So everything's always being juggled these times. And you're fool not to sit there and listen to other people. Yeah. But you also don't want to hitch. So tough time because some prospects will take pretty much any offer that comes their way. They feel very grateful. But then do you want to really hitch your wagon to a team that's either on the fast slide down or even the fast rise up? Who have they got coming in? You know what I mean? That 3 years from now you can be competing with for playing time, starting time, whatever you want to call it. How will you fit in that revenue stream when they start divvying up the revenue every year? Not to mention NIL opportunities.
That's what complicates it to me.
Everybody has an agent now, by the way.
Exactly. I would love to know how much time is spent and who does that in the negotiation.
Well,
hey,
the parents are very much involved.
Bingo.
With a lot of these players. I know Matt listens. Matt takes most of the phone calls in terms of, what are we talking about here? Yeah. Bottom line, coach. But then you also have aspirations to earn a scholarship offer from Ohio State. But that doesn't mean you're necessarily just going to jump to Ohio State, even though your dad played there and was an All-American, for example. Using it as an example, you want to feel like, you really belong there. I mean, show me some love, what I mean? For one of another term, from a recruiting standpoint.
Well, and the other thing I see from so many players, there's a big basketball player this weekend, Ohio State, Michigan State, Mississippi State, and he chose Stark Vegas. But a lot of times you hear this quote, they have a plan for me. And somehow they convinced him that not only are they looking out for him, but they have a means to get him to the next level. So, I mean, you just never know what a kid will.
Well, they have a plan for me too. Also means from a revenue aspect of things, how they're going to play him. That doesn't necessarily mean he's going to go to the NBA. We all know that. That's no given. But how they plan to exploit his talents.
That's it.
While also playing within the team aspect of things. I would think in college basketball, it's really crazy in that regard to figure out. I mean, for the prospect to understand, but also for the coaching staff to go, we've got to show this guy. We got to show this guy. This is how we're going to play him. Why we're going to play him. If you're good enough, you're going to play early as a freshman. If not, you got to earn your way as a freshman season goes on, et cetera, in basketball. Because man, you get 3 good guys, you got yourself a basketball team.
Well, these rosters in basketball, I mean, it's 10 out of 15 players.
Yeah,
new. I mean, it's a new team. The continuity is just, it must drive Jake Diebler crazy.
Yeah, I'd like to see the
man.
I'd like to see the administrator in the support side of things keeping up with progress toward a degree for some of these guys, because
some play for 4 different schools.
What's that old wink, wink, nudge, nudge? Yeah, exactly. What when you go into the Hall of Fame, what colors you going to wear? I'm going to wear the colors of the rainbow because I played for everybody. Crazy. Anyway,
Heisman choices.
Yeah, my top 4 right now in no order.
Okay.
Maybe I'll give them an alphabetical order.
Oh,
or Mendoza, Pavia, Sayin, and Simpson. Diego Pavia, the ridiculous quarterback at Vanderbilt, who they were favored to beat LSU, and they beat him by more than they were favored. Vanderbilt was favored to beat LSU, which was ranked ahead of them.
Yeah.
And they beat LSU. This week, who have they got? They've got Texas coming in. No. Who is Vanderbilt got this week? I'll think of it in a minute.
Yeah.
But anyway, might be Texas A&M. But then I've got Sayin, obviously, because now everybody's seeing what we've been saying about Sayin for a while, but you can see him getting better. And as I said on the radio the other day, I said, whenever Jeremiah Smith was everybody's sort of like Heisman hopeful for Ohio State going into the year. But as I reminded people on the radio the other day, if Jeremiah Smith has a big day, so does Julian Sayin.
Yep.
I mean,
they go together.
Yeah, they go together. But if Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate both have big days like they did against Wisconsin, Julian Sayin has a huge day, a career day. And that's what you remember most about this quarterback putting the ball right on the money and then them parlaying. So that's why you always look at the quarterback a lot of times, because you still have the ball has to be thrown in some proximity of accuracy and to make the plays. And then I like Ty Simpson, what he's done with Alabama, the way they've gotten their ship righted and they're playing into his hands, which is more like the Kalen DeBoer offense that you saw at Washington under Michael Penix Jr. I really like the way Alabama's going. And by the way, I'm going, me and my baby brother, Tony, who is 67. He doesn't like for me to say who's going to be 68. My baby brother, Tony, who's 67. We're going to that Alabama at South Carolina game this week.
Have some
Go
fun.
ahead. What's your 4?
I had the exact same 4, but I added a 5th.
Okay.
Because I thought we were going to go top 5. And this is my sentimental Arvell Reese / Caleb Downs invite, if you will. But I had the very same thing. And
wait a minute. Who is it? Who's the 5th?
No, Reese and Caleb Downs
that would make 6. That would make 6.
Well,
they're not going there as a tag team.
Most of the time, they don't invite 5.
Here's what hurts Caleb Downs is he's so good. He has a game like he had Saturday. I don't even know how many tackles he was in on. But my point is, like I said, he sort of disappeared because they were playing so well across the board. Arvell Reese is catching so many people's attention right now, both Heisman voters maybe, but also All-American voters, but also NFL scouts. It's crazy.
The people that we have picked, every one of them is a game changer. Pavia, are you kidding me? He's a program maker.
Game. He's the game.
Mendoza has lifted them like nobody's business. Ty Simpson, your boy Ty has won 6 in a row. 6 in a row. He's on fire. Dad was a coach. Those coaches' sons always produce.
Your
and,
love.
and Julian Sayin is
just remember it like this.
Is incredible.
Just remember it like
just
this.
saying.
Just saying.
Just saying.
I've been saying that since they got him. Just saying.
And the only other thing I wanted to say today was when Ryan said we put a little more on his plate, and obviously,
right.
And it's like we're going to let this kid. We're going to let her loose, baby.
Like going to a nice buffet.
That nice first drive.
One of those
like
Scandinavian buffets where you just kind of
smorgasbord.
It can be a smorgasbord of opportunities. Can he handle a whole plate? Yeah, I think he can.
Yeah.
We're going to see that as it goes on. It's funny how schedules change, right? When you look at Ohio State's schedule, you thought the biggest test the last 5 games of the regular season was going to be at Michigan. You got to call that a huge test.
Still is
the way Michigan played on Saturday, but compared to the way they played the previous week when they got run out of the Coliseum
they're still
by USC.
Yeah.
But now is UCLA Ohio State's toughest test? Other than that, has it superseded? Penn State?
Had Penn State won at Iowa, and they almost did.
Right.
I might have said, "Oh boy, this is the interim bump," and it still might be. And Ohio State's got 2 weeks to get ready.
But remember what I told you. The thing about this, when you change coaches in the middle of the year, a team can go all kinds of different directions. We've seen what UCLA has done. They pulled out another one against Michigan State on Saturday.
Man.
And the bottom line is, but like I said, if Penn State got beaten overtime by Oregon, and then lost close games the next 2 weeks.
Sure.
To UCLA and who was it?
By the way,
UCLA and Northwestern. My point is, Penn State still has a great amount of talent. This isn't like a UCLA where you don't see talent across the board. Penn State now playing with their backup quarterback, who I thought played fairly well on Saturday at Iowa. But the point is, they're a talented team now that's in, for one other term, disarray. But 4-game losing streaks aren't built the same. And they've had a 4-game losing streak now, but just the equivalent of a touchdown would have 7 points would have wiped out all of that whole losing streak.
If you were an AD, would you hire James Franklin? Because I think what he did Saturday to a national audience was a great job interview. I mean, I think I would take him at Virginia Tech. I don't want to take Beamer, who may get canned, but
yeah, that's funny.
I don't know, but I think he presented himself really well. He took advantage of the opportunity and didn't hide, I didn't think, behind anything. And
he didn't hide the fact that he was stunned.
Yep.
That it happened when it happened. But like I said, that was a situation you could see the mind was made up. Okay, here's that test.
Mm-hmm.
Oregon at home, whiteout. What more can we do for this man? And still loses in overtime. Competitive doesn't shake the tree, man. It doesn't make the walnuts fall. You know what I mean?
That's exactly.
And or the almonds, wherever you're shaking the tree, whatever orchard you're in. By the way, or nut.
I like peach.
But you don't shake peaches from the tree, do you?
Yeah.
You got to pick those. You don't want them hitting the ground.
You're right.
My point is, is it a pecan orchard or a pecan grove? What is it?
It's a grove.
Yeah, it's a grove.
I like a grove.
So nuts are groves. But the point is, and then they lose to at UCLA, shocker, to an interim staff and a team that couldn't get out of its own way. And so, like we said last week, maybe he wasn't getting fired then, but based on the way the season was going to go, and then all of a sudden the season went down the toilet,
out of his reach,
with a third straight loss to Northwestern, a 20-something point underdog. And now, if you're going to make the change at the end of the year, like we talked about, why not just go ahead and announce it now? Because that puts you in line to kind of get in line for whomever you think is the guy. But as we talked about before the show started, who's the guy? I mean, who's the guy?
Ryan Day's the guy.
Like last year when people were clamoring about Ryan Day.
Yeah.
All right, who's that guy that's going to come in? Maybe he beats Michigan. Maybe he doesn't. But who's that guy that's going to come in and take you to places Ryan Day hasn't been, who isn't already doing it somewhere else?
No, they're retired.
Who is that guy?
Saban's retired.
Correct.
Urban's retired.
Correct.
Who's the third?
I don't know, but you can
There's
stop at those two.
I don't think there's anybody else in that class right now.
No, I don't think so. Ironically, they went in the College Football Hall of Fame the same year. That's really
7
really cool.
titles for one, 3 for the other.
Yeah, but that's my point. Be careful what you wish for. But then again, Clemson, with Tommy Bowden, Clemson always thought it could be better than that. Always thought it could be better. And then finally gave it to this former walk-on at Alabama who proved himself a hard worker in Dabo Swinney. And he gets that job. And a lot of people thought it was an interim, it was going to be an interim almost between there and the next great coach in college football. Ended up Dabo Swinney was the next great coach in college football, right? And now
he was.
Now Dabo Swinney's getting booed for the most part off the field.
And it was maybe
they were considered a contender again for the ACC championship, and they got beat at home. I think it was at home. Correct me if I'm wrong, by SMU over the weekend. And now, anybody but Dabo, in a lot of Clemson fans' minds, they don't remember the pre-Dabo. But my point is, as an AD and even the administrator of a school, you do have to really look at things in a fine way. Has the football program, because you're investing, so much money is being invested into it, and it's bringing in so much money, but that can go in a heartbeat. We saw empty seats at Wisconsin on Saturday. What's that fine line between carrying on and are we just going to trudge on? And as an administrator, you have to make that call because you'll be the next guy out the door.
Yeah, because Chris McIntosh might be putting himself on the line as well. One quick story about Dabo. I was at my parents' house 6 miles away from Clemson in the spring. I went to one of their practices. They were having a little scrum afterwards. And, he's taking a few questions with the local yokels.
Yeah.
And I'm asking about Ohio State and the rivalry and what did it do for your program beating Ohio State? And about the third question, he goes, "Who are you?" And I said, I was in the neighborhood. I cover Ryan Day. Anyway,
yeah,
he was cool.
What did he say, though?
But he was very dismissive of the fact that they needed to beat Ohio State to show their worth.
Yeah.
He didn't care for that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was the case either. I mean, I agree, but 31-0 pretty much told the world,
You no doubt.
That's when everybody thought Deshaun Watson was going to be the next great quarterback in NFL history. And hasn't proven to be the case yet. Never give up, right? Never, ever give up. But
all right.
But the bottom line is, it's an interesting time because, like you said, we were talking and beforehand, and how you're hearing some people at Virginia Tech saying they need Shane Beamer, and you're hearing other people at South Carolina, where he's the head coach now, basically saying, in essence, you can have him.
That's right.
I mean, I'm going to that game. Like I said, me and my baby brother Tony are going to that game this weekend, Alabama at South Carolina. I've never been to Williams-Brice Stadium, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But I'll give a little bit of report. I might even do a little bit of video stuff, especially with my brother Tony, because he's fired up now that Alabama not only has risen up from the dead, but is out there conking people on the head.
Well, you can shoot the booing.
Exactly.
And there may be good seats still available.
Yeah. The only thing I'm regretting about this trip was I bought my tickets
early
about 4 months ago.
Oh, my.
And I'm telling you, that was a mistake. That was a faux pas. But I really thought South Carolina was going to be pretty good with Lenora Sellers back. But I kept forgetting Mike Shula is their offensive coordinator. I never took that into consideration about how good South Carolina could be. And now you've got Shane Beamer defending the play calling by Mike Shula and Mike Shula, et cetera. Dude, you just step back and look at some of this. Look at the script, for one other term. The postscript is what I call it. When you look back on how things went in games, how plays were called, what were we thinking here? What were we thinking there? And it's never too late to make a change because what's that old line that somebody said one time? Coach is walking off. You may have said this. Coach is walking off with the head coach, and he goes, "Coach, there's a possibility of two people losing their job before next week, or by next week.
Mm-hmm.
One is the offensive coordinator. And if he doesn't lose his job, then it's going to be the head coach. Sometimes I think athletic directors do have that heart-to-heart because they're the ones that have to count the money, but also bring in the money, make sure the flow is coming.
Right.
And I'm telling you, you leave 10,000 seats unsold to a major college football game right now, that's a lot of money.
Well, that's why I think Scott Strickland at Florida was in such a you just get in that no man's land where you're denying meeting with donors and somebody shot him on the field after the game. Billy Napier's about 6 yards away, and Scott Strickland, the athletic director, is right here. Never even looked his way.
Yeah.
Never went over to comfort or congratulate on the win. It just becomes such a business that to me, it's
the hardest thing in the business.
Yeah.
Like you said about hiring your friend.
Trying to depart, anybody
hiring your friend, eventually one way or the other, you might have to walk in and say,
yeah, this
is not working. We're moving on, and we're moving on right now.
Today.
And here are the boxes.
Right.
Load up the boxes.
Yeah.
It's tough. I'm just curious to see what kind of crowd I'm going to be mingling with in South Carolina on Saturday afternoon. That's like one of those 3:30, I think, kind of 3:30, 4 o'clock starts. It'd be a good time. Like I said, I've never been there for a game. I've also one of the few state capitol buildings I've never been in, as in AL, OL. OL is the building. One of the few OL capitals, state capitals I haven't been in. I'm looking forward to touring that, checking out their state flag, see if it's in working order, if you know what I'm saying.
You're a history buff like me.
Yeah, but you know what I mean about their state flag. Remember where they had to take the they had to take the Confederate part of it off.
Oh yeah.
God, talk about living in the past.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tim May. That's Clay Hall. We'll be back a couple more times this week here on the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, brought to you by FanStreamSports.com. But until next time, we'll see you then.